Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, one of the things I love to do whenever I'm speaking in front of a group like this is just to find out how much we have in common. So would you agree that if we have things in common with each other, it helps us establish rapport quickly? Would that be a fair statement? Yes? Sure, of course. And here's the other thing. I believe that if we have things in common with each other, it helps us in the likability department as well. And we like to hang out with like-minded people, don't we? Sure. Well, the easiest way that I know of to find out if we have anything in common is simply by asking a few questions. In the interest of time, guess what I've done? I've gone ahead and prepared a few just to help us out. So here's the first question with a show of hands. This is for everyone in the room now. How many of us still have some unfulfilled life goals we want to accomplish? Me too. Okay, excellent. How many of us have ever experienced a bad day at work? Me too. And thank you, sir, for not putting both your hands up into the air. That's terrific. How about this question? How many of you ever had a conversation with someone, and as that person was speaking to you, to yourself, in your mind, you're going like, I'm not sure what it is about you, but I just don't trust you. How many of you had that gut feeling? Yeah, that's a gut feeling, or sometimes we call it a sixth sense or intuition. That's also what it's referred to. It really doesn't matter what label we put on it, so much as that from time to time, we get this feeling that comes over us. Now, you might be saying, oh, geez, well, what's this got to do with body language communication? Well, I'm going to suggest just about everything. You see, the reason that we get that emotion that comes across us is because of incongruent behavior. Incongruent behavior between what you saw and what you heard and what you believe to be the truth and are questioning it. Or you're looking for some kind of a reaction. You're looking for some body movement, perhaps a gesture or facial expression that would complement the words, and you quite didn't see it. Now, sometimes incongruent behavior can be broad. For instance, if I came out here and I said, welcome, folks, welcome, right? Well, highly incongruent, isn't it? My words are saying, welcome, come closer, come near. My gestures are saying, back off, give me space, stay away. But in communication, when we're conversing, things happen so quickly that sometimes we miss those little nuances. And body language happens in an instant, and we make judgment in an instant too, don't we? We pass judgment on others based on what we see. Come on, be honest with me. How many times have you been at a traffic light and within 15 seconds sized everyone up around you? Right? You'd be sitting there, you'd be going with your buddy in the car, you go, oh, Chuck, check out the old guy in the Ferrari. He must be going through a midlife crisis. Right? And then Chuck, of course, he can't be outdone, can he, right? He'll say, oh, check out what those two guys are wearing. They're definitely on their way to see Lady Gaga, you know? We'll never see these people. We'll never talk to them again. But we make snap decisions based on what we see. You see, 83% of the information studies show is the information is processed through the eyes, 11% through the ears, the balance is through the rest of the senses. So we're highly visual. We put a lot of merit on what we see. And with that information, just imagine, I'll prove it to you right now. Imagine I'm giving you a gift. I said, do you like it? Do you like it? You get the box and you go, oh, it's beautiful. What are you going to believe? What you just saw or my words? And here's another thing that you might find quite interesting. That now studies are showing that when the other person is speaking to you, they can fire off up to 700 nonverbal cues in a short 20-minute period. And communication is reciprocal, isn't it? So you two are going to project up to 700 of your own nonverbal cues, which in simple math, in 1 hour period between two people, and in business and in life, we seem to book appointments on the hour, they last for an hour. Between two people, 1 hour meeting, there's over 4,000 nonverbal cues taking place. And what we quickly begin to realize is that we communicate at two different levels. We communicate at the verbal level and the nonverbal level. Now, I am going to show you 3 bullet points on the next slide. I just finished saying that we communicate on 2 levels, but in actual fact, it's 3. So in the interest of common language, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set some very, very quick definitions. Very, very simplest definitions, so that we can just kind of have a definition of where we're going with this. So verbal communication is best defined as any communication that takes place between two people or a group of people with the use of words. Let's just agree that that's the definition for today. And this includes the ums and the ers and the ahs and all those other filler words that we use when we communicate. Then, on the other side of the spectrum, we have nonverbal communication. And nonverbal communication is best defined as any communication that takes place between two people or a group of people without the use of words. And this is everything about you. The haircut you have, the shoes you're wearing, the clothing that you've chosen for the day, everything says something about you to the other person. The question is, what signals are you conveying? And more importantly, is how is it being interpreted on the other end? But it goes beyond that. You see, it's not just about the tattoos that you hide or reveal or the piercings that you might have. No, nonverbal communication goes beyond that. It goes right into color and scent. We know certain colors are indicative of moods. We know that fiery reds and deep purples can create anxiety. They can create heightened blood pressure. You'll never find those colors in the cardiac ward at the hospital. But you might find the blues, the greens, the earthy tones, the browns. But then there's color and scent. We know that vanilla and lavender are the number 1, number 2 household fresheners. I'm hard-pressed to find sulfur scent anywhere. Well, just in case you have that annoying neighbor, wouldn't it be nice just to give a little quick squirt before he shows up? Yeah. And then it's the study of proxemics, which is the study of territory, space, distances, and angles. And we know that where we stand, where we sit, has a direct affection and impact on whether we motivate someone to our way of thinking or we repel them further away from us. And then, of course, nonverbal communication also takes into consideration tonality, tone, inflection, the pacing of our words, pauses, especially when body language isn't present, for instance, when we're on the telephone. That's how we create excitement. That's how we keep the other person engaged and hooked. And then in the middle, we have this other criteria, and that's called body language. And body language, in its simplest of definitions, is based on the study of body movements, facial expressions, and body movements. Now, you might be saying to yourself, body movements, facial expressions, and gestures, there's no words in there. Shouldn't that really be nonverbal communication? If you're thinking that, you're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, the majority of people will take body language communication and lump it into nonverbal communication. I just like to separate it because I believe it's such an important way of how we communicate. It really does deserve to be in a category by itself. But for now, you know what? For today's purposes, let's just agree that we do communicate on 2 different levels. Now, how many of you have heard the expression or been told, you've got to be out of your mind? Yeah. The next time someone says that to you, correct them. Tell them it's minds. Excuse me, which mind are you referring to? Because we're all of 2 minds. We got our conscious mind, we have our unconscious mind. And they're both beautiful. And the best analogy is that of the iceberg. You see, above the water surface, we have this magnificent, beautiful piece of ice. Wind sculpted, rain chiseled, beautiful hues of blues and pinks. Everyone oohs and ahs and marvels at its beauty. But as the saying goes, out of sight, out of mind, what we don't see beneath the water's surface, and what we really don't pay attention to, is that 90% mass keeping that little 10% buoyant. You see, that 10% is the equivalent of our conscious mind. That deals with the here and the now. It's where we cater to. This is where we speak, when we're talking to each other, when we're communicating. This is where we pay a lot of attention to. But what I'm going to suggest to you is that we should be paying attention to Mr. Spock. The unconscious mind doesn't discriminate and has a really huge responsibility. It makes sure that our heart keeps working. We don't have to give a second thought about that, right? If we're working out and we begin to perspire, we don't have to worry about turning on a sweat switch. No, it does it automatically. We don't have to worry about how often we blink. We blink when we need to blink. The unconscious mind is so powerful. But the question is, can we influence? Can we influence the unconscious mind? Here's audience participation time. Here I want you to do is I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and what I want you to do is just yell out the answer. Fair enough? Okay, I'm going to show you. This is a technique called priming. Whenever we want someone to comply, we can't just ask for what we want. We've got to get the brain, the mind, into a state of compliance. Realtors, for instance, will do this too at the unconscious level, because what they'll do is they'll stage the house. For instance, gets the brightest apples and beautiful bananas, nice and yellow and orange, and they'll put that all onto the kitchen there. So it makes it look nice. but let me show you how quickly I can influence you. I'm going to ask you a series of questions and just yell out the answer. Ready? On the screen behind me are letters. What color are those letters? White. What color are those letters? White. What do cows drink? Milk? Or do they drink water and give milk? That's how quickly the unconscious mind can be primed. Now the question is, can the conscious mind be primed? Well, here's one thing I know of each and every one of you in this room, and you know of me now, is that it's absolutely impossible for us to keep two opposing thoughts in our mind at any one given time. As we're thinking about one thought, we're not thinking about the second thought. As soon as we think about the second thought, we've lost control of the first thought. And this is what we call thought oscillation, and it happens. Do you folks like magic? Yeah, this is what magicians make a living off of, knowing that as long as they have your attention on something, then you're not going to be thinking about anything else. You see, I've got a toonie here. I just got a little coin. And all I have to do is just take this and move it over here. Now, as I'm looking over here, it's gone. Well, actually, it's not. It's still right here, okay? But my point is, as long as I look and I point to where I want you to look, that's where you're going to go. Watch, I'll do it again. Right? I can do this till the cows come home. I'll do it a third time. Watch this. It's just... See, you're looking over there again, aren't you? Yeah. It's tough to do. See, respectfully, the brain is lazy because it has so much information that it has to process. It generalizes, deletes, and distorts the information. So as soon as you can give something, you can give the brain, the mind something to do, you tell it what to do, it will follow. Here, I'll do it again. One more time. Oh, you're doing very good there, but you still took a peek. So how does this all work here with first impressions? How does that all work? Well, when we first set eyes on each other, it's almost as if we carry a tablet, isn't it? In here is all the things we like about ourselves, we like about other people. It's our values, our beliefs, all the things that we hold dear to us is all in this tablet. And it happens very quickly. It's like a diagnostics. All our indirect and our direct influencers, everything is all packed into here. And when we meet somebody first time, we say, "Hi, how are you?" This thing fires off a diagnostics in 4 seconds and says, green light, nice person. Yellow light, be careful. Red light, don't trust them. And it happens that quickly. Let me show how quickly it is. You see, when we meet somebody, when we see somebody, we get some good thoughts. And we have thoughts about that person. As we get more information about that individual, we only have one of three choices. We either stay the course with our initial impression, we change our initial impression with more information, or we just are absolutely satisfied and our thought moves on to a completely different thought altogether. And the only difference between the two pictures that you saw was that on the right-hand side, you see more of her body. She has a different colored book, and she has a tattoo around her belly button area. Now, maybe even the fact that you might have thought it was a belt and I said it was a tattoo, that might have even influenced your thoughts. But let me prove to you how fast these thoughts come into mind. I'm going to show you a picture of someone, and I want you to do something that every single day of your life you've been doing, unconsciously, this diagnostic. But I'm just going to ask you to consciously be aware of it and simply raise your hand the moment a thought enters into your mind. Okay? Ready? Look at the screen. Thoughts in your mind. Wow. Isn't that something? Yeah. You don't even know her. And that was 4 seconds. Let me pull her back up again. There she is. Now, I don't know this lady, but I know of her. Her name is Lillian Bettencourt, and she is the second richest woman in the world. Not looking too bad now, is she, sir? I know, marry for money, the love will come in time. Her net worth is over $40 billion. And she's a very wonderful lady, philanthropist, very generous with her money. And she lives in Paris. And where all that money come from, she inherited. She's the heiress to the fortune from the cosmetics company in Paris, L'Oreal. So, what's the key to remember? Well, the key to remember is this, that just as soon as you are to pass judgment on somebody else, that person is doing the exact same thing back to us in real time. And that's the part that we often forget. That's the part that we overlook because we're so fixated on what we're thinking about. And communication does begin with the first impression. But once we take into consideration that we also communicate at two different levels, verbal communication and nonverbal communication, and that we are of two minds. We got our conscious mind, we have our unconscious mind. It all begins to make a little bit more sense where that feeling does come from. And all communication has to start off at one point, and a very important point, and that is rapport. And with rapport, let's never ever overlook the factor of likability. Thank you very much, everyone.